Uh, Hello, namaste. Okay, namaste everyone. Welcome to the May event of Indic Forum. As you all know, Indic Forum is an independent think tank giving platform to authors and intellectuals writing about Dharma, India, history, Indology, and so on. We are a non-profit, and you can always donate to us by visiting our website, indicforum.org. Uh, Now, today we are fortunate to have with us Jijith Ravi. This is, in fact, the second time he's talking on Indic Forum. Previously, we had hosted him to talk about his book, Geography of Ramayana, and that event was very well received. Today, he's going to talk about Geography of Mahabharata. A few words about Jijitji. Jijith Nadumuri Ravi is a former space scientist with ISRO. He's author of many books, Rivers of Rigveda, Geography of Ramayana, and his latest book is Geography of Mahabharata. At ISRO, he contributed to the Chandrayaan and many other launches. He also founded many websites like ancientvoice.wiki.com. It contains around 25,000 pages from different Hindu texts. Then he also like various maps. He also started like websites like Nalanda and Takshashila, focusing on Upanishads, Greek, Western, and Tamil literature. Uh, his latest book, Geography of Mahabharata, talks about the Pandava era, analyzes the whole text, the 18 parvs of Mahabharata without missing any events, and the life of Pandavas and how it relates to geography of India and so on. It covers the sub narratives of Nala, Savitri, and some Ramayana stories embedded in Mahabharata as well. Uh, Having said that, I think I'll give the floor to Raviji to present his book. Anyone who wants to ask questions, it's great if you can, type it out in the chat so I can take it at an appropriate time, or you can ask it at the end of the session where we have allocated some time for Q&A. Having said that, Raviji, the floor is yours.
Yeah, namaste. So I have my heartfelt thanks to Indic Forum. As sir has mentioned, it is the second time I'm in this forum. I was speaking about the second book, uh, Rivers of Rigveda and the Geography of Ramayana. I have come to the Indic Forum uh, and with the invite from the auspicious gathering. So this is my third book. That is Geography of Mahabharata. So few before starting the slides, a few words because there is a kind of need that has arisen for writing these three books, which I called as geochronology trilogy, starting with Rigveda, then Ramayana, and then Mahabharata. Because now our leftist historians have done it halfway. The history of Bharata, it is in halfway. Up to Chandragupta Maurya or up to Nanda, Mahapadmananda, or a few kings like Haryanga, Shishunaga, they have considered them as historical kings. But in the same literary sources, if there are somebody who is older than them, like Parikshit, they consider them as mythology. So that's a kind of absurd kind of a situation. So my books, what it does is it creates a bridge from the Nanda Maurya period to Rigvedic period, so that all the kings mentioned in the Mahabharata, like Parikshit and Yudhishthira, Shantanu, and those kings in the Ramayana, like Rama, Dasharatha, and the Rigvedic kings, which many people are not familiar, like Trasadasyu, Purukutsa, Sudas, Divodasa, Pradardana. So all the kings in a historical timeline without any kind of see, many people object to the historical timeline because our itihasas, because of certain exaggeration, they mention like Rama lived for 11,000 years, or Parashurama is a Chiranjeevi. So because of that, these create limitations, difficulties in considering all these historical personalities as really historic. So that is another reason. So we can't blame the other side completely, because on our side, we are not even allowing to see these personalities as historic, because certain magical narratives has arisen as part. So we are not able to discriminate between the magical narratives and the historical timelines and lifetimes of these ancient personalities. So my entire research is to like segregate the realistic data with the kind of imaginative exaggerations and magical narratives, so that we get a core historical components from Mahabharata as well as Ramayana. And surprisingly, if, you will be surprised, because Rigvedic kings are considered as historical kings, because Rigveda is considered as a very well preserved text with even not even a phonetical change, even in a single rik or verse, neither from the north or south. It's always same Rigveda with even phonetical change because of the certain signs, Niritta, Chandas, all these things, all these Vedanga has supported Rigveda, because of which everything inside it is well preserved and is similar to an inscription or an epigraphic information. That is even the opponents, our opponents like Aryan invasion theorists, they also agree that. So surprisingly, you have Rigvedic kings, they are historical kings. Nobody say they are myths or mythological, because this is part of the Rigveda. And you have Chandragupta Maurya. So in between Ramayana and Mahabharata, because of because they are a little lazy and not because of some anomaly, they consider it as mythology. So that is what I am eliminating, and because of the research. Now I'll just move the slides.
Do you have slides, because I we can't
Yeah,
see?
I am starting with the slides now, because I wanted to tell this much in a very clear manner. So just a minute. Yeah. So everybody able to see the screen?
Not yet.
What about now?
No, it just appears as blank.
Yeah, just once again I will share it. Just once again I will make a share. Is it now visible?
No. Okay. Yes. In fact, yes. It's visible. Not anymore.
Some instability I'm seeing.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, Jijith, are you using dual monitors by any chance?
no, not.
Okay, it's good now. Now just click on the
Okay.
presentation icon.
Yeah, I think it's fluctuating in my side. I don't know why it is. Okay, now now
Uh,
it's clear, right?
no. Yeah. Now it's clean. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I just avoid clicking the presentation button, because there is some problem with the presentation. I'll make it a little bit larger here, because when I'm making present, it is creating some problem. So these are the books, that is geography of Ramayana. So there are 2 volumes to it. So basically, and I will be speaking it in total, because the book actually was a single book, but it is only because of the difficulties in that is like printing everything. So I have separated the book in the last minute into 2 parts. So this is just a snapshot of the books, the author copies, etc. And this is the slide which shows the 3 books in total, like the rivers of Rigveda, geography of Ramayana, and geography of Mahabharata. So this is released in January 2022. and then 2023 of January 2023, and the current book is in January 2024. So three books. So this book got divided into two parts, volume 1 and 2. So that is what happened. Now, if I look at why this trilogy, so that's my point I'm talking about. The eminent historians, they see Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda, all of them as historical kings, and they are also mentioned in the Puranas, so they have no problem. The kings are mentioned in Puranas, they don't have any problem. Even then, they are considering as the historical kings. But the same Purana mentioned Janameja or Parikshit or Yudhishthira, Pandu, Vichitravirya or son Shantanu, or Sri Rama or anybody of that, they will say immediately mythology. So that is an anomaly. And so the book is trying to solve that problem. And then, like if I look at the various speakers, various authors like Dr. Elst, Sai Deepak or Raj Vedam, all of them have given some notes of appreciation for the books, like they have done in for the previous books as well. So, and Dr. Elst has given the foreword also for this book, like he has given for the Rivers of Rigveda as well. And the middle book, the foreword is given by Bibek Dabrai. So this is like total 3 books and 3 forewords. So we have all the scholars in India and in UK and in USA, like Vishal, Ajay Chaturvedi, Manoj Sinha, all of them have given some forewords. So if I go with the synopsis, so it is now 2-volume book. There are two editions, 2 volumes, basically volume 1 and 2. And it is the final part of the trilogy, which has started from the Rig Veda. So the reason being that the chronology trail starts from the Rigvedic kings and then builds on into Ramayana and into the Mahabharata. So this is one of a kind of book, because the reason being in the 10th mandala, I see the presence of Shantanu, who is actually the forefather of the Pandavas and Kauravas in Mahabharata. And in the same 10th mandala, as a contemporary to Shantanu, we have Sri Rama as well, which I have mentioned in my previous talk. But in summary, I say that both of them are mentioned as kings, performing yajnas and giving dana, that is the donation to various rishi munis. So that's there in the Rig Veda. And as I mentioned before, Rig Veda is a kind of inscription. So we have a very kind of a strong evidence of presence of Sri Rama as well as Shantanu in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. So that is why, so the Ramayana chronology is anchored onto the Sri Rama in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. And Mahabharata chronology is anchored on Shantanu in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, like that. And of course, some other point, like there are some intermediary personalities like Hanuman, Parashurama, and so many others. You don't believe it, like Durvasa, then Vibhishana, Vaisravana, Mainda, Vibhida. Even there is Markandeya, and then there is Jambavat. All these so many personalities, more than around a dozen personalities, very famous. They are actually contemporary to both Sri Rama as well as the people of the Pandava era. So either they have met Pandavas or they met Balarama or Krishna or Bhishma or Drona. So some of the people who have lived in the Pandava, Rama era, they are also there present in the Pandava era. And this also actually created implication into the chronology, because either you decide, like you call them as Chiranjeevis, but then in the historical timeline, we cannot, there is no acceptance that the Chiranjeevis can be real. Of course, the people can live for 100 years, 120 years, 140 years, but thousands of years, if somebody is living, then there is no historical oriented person who accepts that as a history. So the inevitable conclusion is that the Rama and the Rama's birth and the Pandava's birth separated by a very short period, like a century. I have calculated in an Excel sheet, cost to 1 century or 1005 years. So that is the reason why you have so many people contemporary to both Rama and the Pandavas. And of course, I have given the logical details and for how it is happening. So those are all is the part of book. And apart from that, It has around 100 and 540 Janapadas. It is discussing 100 and more than 100 cities, towns, 230 rivers, 100 mountain ranges, around 20 forests, 59 different kinds of regions, and 280 Tirthasthan. So, because Mahabharata is basically a kind of a repository of geographical information. So our eminent historians only mention about 16 Janapadas, but we have 540 Janapadas mentioned in the Mahabharata. So that I am enumerating in the book. And if somebody wants to purchase the book, this is a kind of a content summary where you have Digvijaya of the Pandu. So Pandu onwards the travel is starting. So Digvijaya of Pandu. Then Pandavas travel like from their birth to living in Shatasranga mountains to then coming to Hastinapura. Then there is a Panchala invasion. Then the banishment of Pandavas to Varanavata. So all the locations I am identifying in geographical maps. From the Varanavata, goes to Eka Chakra, and then they are traveling to Panchala. So all the locations like Eka Chakra, Chakarnagar, near Etava, and Panchala, the Kampil. So all this I am mentioning into the book. And then their banishment to the Kandava Prastha, traveling of Bhima to Magadha to killing Jarasandha, then Arjuna's exile and his pilgrimage to various places, and then there is a travel of Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadeva, the four brothers of Yudhishthira in four directions for getting the tribute for the Rajasuya of Yudhishthira. So that's all geographically intense passages. All these are like analyzed in the book. And their travel to forest, Dvaita Kamika Vanas, to the southwest of the Kurukshetra. That is not to confuse with the city Kurukshetra, but the region between Saraswati and Drashadvati is called Kurukshetra. It's almost half of the northern Haryana. It's actually northern Haryana, basically, half of Haryana in the northern side. So that Kurukshetra and its southwest, you have Vana, the forest like Kamya and Dvaita Vana. So they are living there. After that, Yudhishthira decided for a pilgrimage travel around all around the Bharatavarsha. So that is also analyzed. Then Arjuna's travel in Devaloka, very interesting. So Devaloka, it is a Vishtapa or Tibetan region because it's elevated comparatively the Indo-Gangetic plain. It is an elevated region. So that is the Mahabharata poet described as the Devaloka. When of course there is mention of the Kailas, Manas, Sarovar range, etc. in that region. So that we are clear it is Tibet. And then Yudhishthira ascending to the Himalayas to meet Arjuna and they return back. And then Pandava's life in the Virat Nakari, that is the northeastern Rajasthan in the Bairat. Today it is known as Bairat, very close to the Alwar Bharatpur area. And Krishna's peace mission from Upaplavya to Hastinapura, Balarama Saraswati pilgrimage, and Ashwamedha travels of Arjuna. That is the last, like after they got the kingdom, after Kurukshetra war, Arjuna makes another travel for Ashwamedha. So there are certain places mentioned, the post Kurukshetra war. And then the travel of Pandavas to the final Mahaprasthanika, their final journey. And of course, very surprisingly, the Mahabharata contains the entire travel journey of Sri Rama and also Nala and Damayanti as well. So those narratives also, their geographic analysis, these are also part of the this particular analysis. And also the Satyavan Savitri, the another narrative. And then there are numerous other rare, unfamiliar travel narratives, like there is some travel narratives in Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva, which are like Dharma Shastras. But then there are certain travel narratives of Rishi Munis in that Parvas. In Adi Parva, there are some travels of Janamejaya. And then Ugrasrava Sauti, and then there are Naga kings and Naga Pragu lineage, they have made some travel. So these are entire travel narratives in the Mahabharata from first start to finish. From Adi Parva to Swarga Harana Parva, this is fully analyzed, and around 102 geographical maps containing the entire travel narrative, traveling through various cities, their identification. So these are all the kind of activities, the value that is coming into the this particular text. Now, if I say this is what one aspect that everybody should understand when you are studying the chronology of the Mahabharata or geography of Mahabharata or any of the itihasas, because we have various things in the itihasas. There are magical narratives. That is like the magical narratives are actually meant for the purpose of the preservation of the text. Because if you look at Rigveda, it has a different approach. So because the Rigveda, you have Padapata and very strict rules of recitations, because of which even not even a single matra, not even a single phonetics is changed. But so in the Rigveda, there is no magical narratives or anything, but they are using a pronunciation methodologies and the Vyakarana. It's in the Vyakarana of the Rigvedic text, Samhita text, the Chandas, that is the poetic meter, and Shiksha, so the way it is pronounced. So because of all this Vedanga that we have associated with the Vedas, the Rigveda and other Vedas are preserved with very high quality. Even they passed many thousands of years. They have well preserved from the period of creation to current period. But the Mahabharata or Ramayana doesn't have that kind of a setup. So when you recite Mahabharata, there is nobody checking whether the recitation pronunciation is correct or not. So the poets of the Mahabharata, they use magical narratives. So the magical narratives will create certain interest within the kings and all the listeners. So there will be patronage for the Mahabharata or Ramayana because there are a lot of magical narratives, like Krishna lifting the Govardhana, Hanuman taking the mountain. So these are all getting very much interesting, and then they start remembering that, and they will pass it on to generation. That is how it reached us. So the magical narratives is something like a preservative that is being used to preserve the information inside the itihasas. And then, of course, it has factual data. And that is what we use for reconstructing the history and the geography. And there is a philosophy. Philosophy or the spirituality inside the itihasas, they are the main objectives. That is why the itihasas created. So that it becomes the story or the narrative account of Rama becomes a lesson for future generation, or the narrative account of the Pandavas, how handle their dharmic situations, dharma sankada. So these are all the actual purpose of the Mahabharata and Ramayana. But as I said, our objective, even we totally respect the philosophical as the purpose, the primary purpose is the philosophy, but our objective is like extending the historicity of Bharatavarsha from Chandragupta Maurya all the way up to Rigveda. So we are actually looking at the factual information. So that is the clarity I want to give before we venture into the further detail. And another, this slide, whatever I'm showing, I hope all the slides are visible. Otherwise, please correct me. So this slide, what I'm showing is the number of kings that we have between Parikshit, and Parikshit is here, and Manu here. So if you look at, there are only 44 generations between Manu and Parikshit. And we have an average generation gap between two kings. So typically it is the same as the ordinary people. So any person will have a son born by around 25th year. So there will be typically 4 generations in a century. That is a normal mathematics we use for understanding the generations. So four generations in a century. So in 1,000 years, there will be 40. But we give a luxury of 40, maximum generation gap of 40, because this is a very ancient period. So there may be missing kings, etc. So like whatever the historians do for some of the ancient historical lineage, like the Brihadrata dynasty, they put 40 years as the average generation gap because it's very ancient. The same thing we apply for the Mahabharata the lineage. So we have 44 generations with the 40 as the maximum generation gap. So even then it reaches 1760 years. That is close to 2000 years. That means, like for example, my date for Kurukshetra war is 1793 BC. And if you add this 1760 years, or it will be like the Manu has to be dated at 3553 BC. Or even if you add just everything is approximation. around 2000 BC, that is what we say as Kurukshetra war around 2000 BC. And Manu, the gap between Parikshit and Manu is around 2000 BC, 2000 years. So 2000 BC plus 2000 is only 4000 year. 4000 BC is where Manu can be dated. Now people may be thinking, okay, it can be corrected with bigger, some dates like 556 BC, etc. So even if you put a 556 BC, I put 556 BC here. The problem with that approach is that, see, if Kurukshetra war is in 556 BC, you have to add 2000 BC, then Manu will be only in 7561 BC. There is no change. Because Manu to Parikshit is only 2000 BC. So even if you put a highest date for Kurukshetra war, which some researchers put, Manu has to be dated at 7500 BC. That means the other dates like 12,209 BC for Ramayana, none of them will be real. Because Manu itself has to be dated based on the Parikshit to Manu chronological gap. You cannot date Ramayana to 12,209 BC or anything. Because Rama is definitely later to Manu. And there is another problem when you put 556 BC, because connections are not only from Parikshit to Manu, but from Parikshit to the lower side, that is to Mahapadmananda. So various Puranas give a kind of the different Puranas. For Vishnu Purana says between Parikshit birth to Mahapadmananda coronation there are 1015 years. Various other Puranas, Matsya Purana, etc., they put 1500 years. So we accept that variation. We say that between 1015 to 1500 years is the gap between Parikshit to Mahapadmananda. So since there is such a gap, we take the maximum gap. See, even 556 BC, if you put Kurukshetra war, Mahapadmananda has to be dated at 4000 BC. Because there is a connection not only with Manu, but also with Mahapadmananda. And the Puranas are giving this data. Which means you have to put Mahapadmananda before the early Harappan period. Anybody with a basic understanding of history will say that that is not possible. So that is why we cannot exaggerate the Kurukshetra war day to 556 BC or any kind of older dates, because there are connections which will connect this Parikshit to Mahapadmananda. So based on all these iterations, I have considered the 1793 BC as the correct Kurukshetra war, because by that time the horse chariot emerged, iron technology emerged, all of them emerged by 2000 BC. War chariot and war elephants, everything that is you talk in the Kurukshetra war, all the technology that you talk in Kurukshetra war already available by 2000 BC. So the healthy date for Kurukshetra war becomes 1793 BC. So that is what this slide shows. And then there is another interesting, here what is done is the Kuru lineage, where there is Shantanu, Vichitravirya, then the Vichitravirya, son Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Pandu, son Pandavas, Abhimanyu, Parikshit, Janamejaya. And Janamejay's son Shadaniga and his son Ashwamedhaja. And then his 25th descendant Shayamaka. So there is a Kuru lineage that is available. In that, Shantanu is the last king mentioned in the Rig Veda. And Vichitravirya and Dhritarashtra are mentioned in Yajurveda. They are the last kings, Kuru kings mentioned in the Yajurveda. And then finally, then Pandu, Pandavas, Abhimanyu, Parikshit. Parikshit is the last king mentioned in Atharvaveda, last Kuru king Atharvaveda. And in the Mahabharata, which is the actual story of the Pandavas, ends with the Ashwamedha Datta. He is the last king mentioned in the Kuru line. That is Ashwamedha Datta or Ashwamedha Jaya, the grandson of Janamejaya, great grandson of Parikshit. So that person, Ashwamedha Jaya, is the last person mentioned in the Mahabharata. And then you have Puranas, so in which the even 25th descendant of Ashwamedha Jaya, all are mentioned in the Puranas. And not only that, Nandas, Mauryas, Sungas, Guptas, all of them are mentioned in these Puranas. So you have a kind of a relative chronology of the terminal point of Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda, Mahabharata, and Puranas, straight away getting from this particular information. And if you extend it further, you can see some Puranas are also different kinds. You have Padma Purana and Skanda Purana, which is edited up to 12th and 15th century CE, where temples built into 12th and 15th century as mentioned. There is a Bhavishya Purana which mentioned Islamic rule and British rule. Even Queen Victoria, who died in 1901, is mentioned in the Bhavishya Purana. So you have Puranas getting edited up to 19th century, beginning of the 19th century. So these are all the chronological baseline that we use for understanding the Mahabharata geochronology. And then the remaining are the certain maps which I have created, and it is a part of the books. So there is this particular map shows how the Rigvedic period expanded in the Ramayana era and the Mahabharata era, and finally encompass the entire Bharatavarsha. So that sequence is getting correct in my chronology books. Rigvedic period more or less into the northwestern region of Bharata, and the Ramayana era is little bit reach up to Narmada. And then Mahabharata era, you can see the contemporary geography of the Pandavas reaching almost to the south, the various parts of South India. And by the end of the Mahabharata evolution, every kingdom, even Kerala, Pandya, Chola, everything is part of the Bharatavarsha geography. So that is how the geography expansion is happening. That is what I explained here. And then here actually you can see the kind of dates, the dates of various researchers. And I give a kind of a green healthy range, habitable zone range of Kurukshetra war, which is like defined based on the presence of war elephants. War elephants are used in the warfare between 200 BC to 2000 BC. And war chariots also used between 500 BC to 2400 BC. Beyond that, the technology was not there. Like in 3000 BC or 4000 BC or 5000 BC, there is no technology. Like today you have a mobile phone, and somebody says, no, I have like a king, some king in the 15th century used a mobile phone. Now you can understand, now they are telling a bluff, because mobile phones were invented and at least become popular by 1980s. There were some very rare models, but no mobile phone existed in 18th century. No mobile phone existed in the 19th century. Everybody knows that. Similar is the situation. The war chariot as a technology has not emerged in 3000 BC, 4000 BC, 5000 BC, or 6000 BC. So that is why we cannot take those dates very seriously. And war elephants is another thing. War elephants, the elephants were domesticated, but their usage in war, that is around 2000 BC started, because in the Rig Veda there are no war elephants. There is no mention of war elephants. There is the war chariots in the Rig Veda, but only in the middle to late Rigvedic period. In the early Rigvedic period, there is no horse-driven war chariots. So these are all giving a kind of chronological understanding. And by 2000 BC, all these technologies are there. So any date which is lesser than 2000 BC, they are good candidate for the Kurukshetra war. That is what this particular slide indication. And this is basically the kind of territory which is related to Janamejaya. Because Janamejaya went and conquered Takshashila. Then he had in Kurukshetra, he had done a yajna. And of course, Janamajaya's capital is Hastinapura. And then in that entire episode in the Adiparva, you have a Naimisha forest mentioned, where Ayodha Dhaumya was there he was a preceptor priest of the Pandavas who continued living after the lifetime of the Pandavas. And their Sishyas all are mentioned in the Adiparva. And one of the Sishya is Utanga, who instigated Janamejaya to start Sarpasatra. So Sarpasatra is basically a kind of a battle with the Nagas. But even though it is described as a yajna, there was an enmity between Nagas and the Kuru kings, because Takshaka killed the Parikshit by food poisoning. So that is what it historically, the Takshakas made some poison and in a fruit, and Parikshit ate that fruit and he died. So why Takshaka killed Parikshit? Because Yudhishthira, during this Yudhishthira's rule in Indraprastha, Arjuna has Arjuna and Krishna have made a fire in which Takshaka's son Ashwashena escaped, and his entire territory got destroyed. and Takshaka fled. All these things happened. It was like a continuing enmity, probably initiated by Pandavas starting rolling in the Indraprastha. So that was a forest. Under forest area, the Takshaka was a dominant Naga king who were ruling there. But when the Pandavas came, then they need territory. So they have taken up some territory. So that is what the mention about burning of Khandava, etc. As a result of which, Takshaka has fled. So that enmity started from Arjuna's lifetime. And then after Pandavas Vanaprastha, Pandavas left Hastinapura by giving the kingdom to Parikshit. Within few years, Parikshit was assassinated by Takshaka. And Janamejaya was a small child, something 14 years child. He was installed onto the throne. But after he grown up, he came to know about all the this happened to his father. He became very angry. And the Uttanga also got a lot of negative and very bad experience with the Nagas. Because while Uttanga traveled, the Takshaka stole the earrings that he was taking from Pausha king's queen and giving to his preceptor Ayodhya Bhaumi. So because of that, even Uttanga was very angry, and he said enough of all this trouble created by Takshaka. So that is why the Sarpasatra. So that is all part of this particular geography. And there are mentioned of the Pausha king, and then Takshashila. The Takshashila is place where the Sarpasatra was created. That is basically like tying up all the Nagas who are held captive in a battle and then killing them. So the one of the sage Astika, whose mother was a Naga and father was a Brahmana. So he came and stopped. You cannot kill violent. This case severe violence, because one Naga has troubled you, but you cannot kill any Naga. That is a racial killing. So you have to stop. So that happened. So all that places related to Janamejaya is here. And then the Uparijara Vasu's episode starts. So Uparijara Vasu is actually a kind of a ancestor of the Magadhas. And the Mahabharata poet says this create a relationship, like the Uparijara Vasu's relative, or they mention daughter, but it is basically a relationship, like a lineage relationship. So Satyavati is a descendant of Uparijara Vasu. And the Matsya kings who ruled in Virata Nagari are also descendant of the Uparijara Vasu. So that kind of a connection is created in the Mahabharata. So I explore in the book what is the historicity of it, all the things I explore. Because there are other set of Malsyas in Rigveda who were defeated by Sudas during the Dasharajana battle. So there is another lineage. So either this connection with Uparijara Vasu is a kind of a new connection, or it can be an existing connection, because because this Matsya territory is here, and the earliest the proto Magadha territory was around Mathura. So there are connections. So that is all. I don't go into detail. It is explored in the book. And this is like some activity there was a kind of incident happened in the Rigvedic period, where Samvarana, that is ancestor of the Pandavas, migrated from the Kurukshetra region, that was known as Vara Prithivya, to Sindhu Sarayu region. This Sarayu is not to be confused with the eastern Sarayu, that is the Ghagra river in the Uttar Pradesh. This is the Rigvedic Sarayu, or the western Sarayu, very close to Sindhu and the Gandhara regions. So he got asylum in this region, the Samvarana. And there the Samvarana got connected with the Ikshvakus. Tapati Vaivaswati is an Ikshvaki princess. And because of that alliance, a new lineage has started. And that lineage is the Kuru lineage. So in order to tell that, I have shown these graphs. And this is also mentioned in my older books, that is Rivers of Rigveda and Geography of Ramayana. And then the period of Pratibha and Shantanu, where the Kurus were originally in the Kurukshetra region, because that is why the Kurus, the ancestor king Kuru, who is a descendant of Samvarana, he returned back to the Vara Prithivya and renamed it as Kurukshetra. So that Kurukshetra is what you are seeing here. So King Kuru ruled in the Kurukshetra. The King Kuru's kingdom is the Kurukshetra, basically. So from Kurukshetra, the subsequent kings migrated eastwards. That is what I am showing. So Pradeepa has reached up to migrated up to the east of Yamuna, and he has established Varanavati, which is now known as Barnava. And recently there is an ASA excavation and validated Barnava is indeed Varanavati. There was a guha, that is a cave also, underground tunnel also they got it. And like slightly to the east is the Hastinapura on the Ganga river, that is established by Shantanu. So all the reasons I have mentioned in my book. And this one is like I mentioned, right? Pandu's Digvijay also is a part of my geography analysis. So here you can see the places visited by Pandu as part of his Digvijaya. And the most important thing is missing Ayodhya. So there is no mention of Ayodhya in Pandu Digvijaya. So the reason I have mentioned in my second book, Geography of Ramayana, because if you look closely, the Valmiki Ramayana Uttarakhanda ends with Rama doing a Jalasamadhi. So basically it was a flood which has taken over, flood that has completely sank Ayodhya. So that is what mentioned as the Jalasamadhi of Rama, and all the citizens of Ayodhya also did Jalasamadhi. So the poet is indirectly telling that the Sarayu flooded the Ayodhya. And if anybody have a doubt, they can check in neither the Lava or Kusha, nobody ruled from Ayodhya. So either typically the elder brother, at least elder brother will rule Ayodhya, but Rama established Lava in Sravasti and Kusha in Kushavati. That means the Ayodhya was completely destroyed. So there is no possibility of anybody ruling that Ayodhya. So that is why Lava ruled from Sravasti, Kusha ruled from Kushavati, few kilometers away from Ayodhya. So in the Pandu Digvijaya's period, Ayodhya was still not restored. That is why it is not mentioned in the Pandu Digvijaya. But Kashi princesses are mentioned as Kashi Kosala princesses. So Pandu's mother is Ambaliga, Dhritarashtra's mother Ambika. All of them are called Kosala princess or Kashi princess. Both are used alternatively, because after Ayodhya got destroyed, the Kashi kings, they are relatives of Rama, because Valmiki Ramana mentions Kashi king is an uncle of Rama and brother of Kausalya. So because of the Ayodhya destroyed, the Kashi took over. Kashi as a cousins, they took over the Kosala kingdom and then made a Kashi Kosala kingdom. And that is why the Kashi princes are also called Kosala princes. This is why Pandu is called the son of Kosala princess, and he is also mentioned Kausalya Ananda Vardhana. And here Kausalya means Ambaliga, that is mother of Pandu. And Kausalya Ananda Vardhana means Pandu increase the joy of Kausalya, that is Ambaliga. So the same epithet is used for Srirama, Srirama's mother Kausalya. Similarly, Ambaliga is another Kausalya, mother of Pandu. And I also mentioned like Pandu was also very much inspired by Rama, because Rama, even a single word from his father, Dasharatha, like a pledge given to Kaikeyi, he was having no problem leaving the kingdom and going to forest. And if you look at Pandu's life, he also more or less effortlessly gave all the kingdom. After Digvijaya, he got a lot of wealth. The entire wealth he gave to Dhritarashtra. And then finally, after some time, he said, I am going to forest. So he went to forest. So it was like an influence of Sri Rama on Pandu. Because maybe he might have thought the elder brother should rule the kingdom. He is just supporting the Dhritarashtra or whatever reason. There's other reasons I have mentioned in my book also. There is another reason which I have mentioned in my book. So that is because there is a kind of fertility problem for Pandu. So he went to Himalayas to cure that fertility problem. Higher Himalayas like Shadopantari, Shadasringa, where Pandu lived and Pandavas are born in Shadasringa, Shadopant in Uttarakhand. So that is another reason. This is the journey of Pandu from Hastinapura to very close. The Shadasringa is here, the Shadopant mountain. And there is an Indradumna lake there, that is a Shadopant lake. And the Hamsagoda, there is a peak. So that is where the Pandu lived. And there all the children, Pandavas born there. And very interesting, Hanuman's location, very close to this Indradumna lake, that is shown in the graph. And it is very close to Badrinath. So Badrinath, everybody knows, because Badri, the name is still Badri. And there is a place called Alaka, which is then a settlement of Kubera. So that currently known as Alka. I mean, same as Alaka. So it's in Hindi pronunciation, it become Alka. Like that. So all these places are still retaining the name. There is a Pandugeshwar, that location also in this region. So it's all entire region is related to Pandavas. Their birth happened close to Indradumya Lake, and Bhima later, in a later period, Bhima met Hanuman in that same location, close to Badari, and then the Alakapuri, where is the Saugandhiga Lake, everything is in the same location. And this is like the poet mentioned how the Karna reached Anga, but it is like not a, though they mentioned about Kundi's casket containing Karna as a baby. From Ashwa river, it went to Charmanavati, Yamuna, Yamuna to Ganga, and then reached Chamba. This is false. I mean, of course, this is very interesting geography, but this casket cannot go up to this. It will be get destroyed. So basically, what happened is Atiratha in the Anga region was living in Hastinapura as a charioteer of Dhritarashtra. So because of some business, he has come to the Kundi Rashtra. At that time, this particular abandonment happened, and he took that casket, and the Karna lived in both Atiratha and Karna lived in Hastinapura. Basically, their native place is Angadesha, but they living in the Hastinapura. So that information I am giving. And here that the Pandava, birthplace of Pandavas in a little more details, I give the Indradyumna Lake is there in the satellite map. You can see there is Hamsakuda mountain here, and then Shatasringa. This is part of Shadapant mountain peak. And Hanuman's location when Bhima met him, and Saugandhiga Lake. There is Alkapuri also, Alaka. Still the name is Alkapuri. That is Kubera's, Vaisravana's one settlement is Alkapuri. Then Badranath, everything is there. That place of Pandavas became identified. And this is like this particular thing is basically the Pandavas attack on when Drona was the preceptor. After as a preceptor, Hastinapura, the Pandavas and Kauravas went to Ahichatra and defeated Drupada. And Drupada shifted to Dakshina Panchala. And Uttara Panchala with Ahichatra was ruled by the Drona's son Ashwathama. And Drupada started ruling from Kambilya. And after some time, all this event happened. Dhritarashtra asked the Pandavas to go to Varanavati. It is like a banishment. Even though first banishment, it is not really, it's a very indirectly mentioned, but first time the Pandavas are banished to Varanavati. Because you can see the Yudhishthira protesting. All these things you can see. But it is similar to how they banished to Indraprastha. First they were banished to Varanavati. And they were planned to be killed there. But what happened because of Vidura's intelligence, they escaped from the Varanavati, and then see Varanavati they traveled southwards. So you can see Hidimba, they met Hidimba and Hidimbi. That battle between Bhima and Hidimba occurred here, and Hidimba, that is the lady Rakshasi, she got infatuated with Bhima, and then that all things are mentioned here. And interestingly, there is a Hidimba river, a tributary of Ganga, still there. Hidimba river, you can search in the Google map, Hidimba river, you can see. And it's all happened very close to the future capital of the Pandavas, that is Indraprastha. So, and then after the Hidimba episode, the Pandavas wandering like this, they wandered to various kingdoms and slowly reached the Eka Chakra, and then Bhaga is here. So Bhaga and Bhaga started killing the people in the Eka Chakra on a weekly basis or a daily basis, and then Bhima rescued all the citizens of Eka Chakra by going and killing Bhaga. All these things happened. And if you look at there is a place called Vetrakiya. This is the place where the king was ruling. There is king of Eka Chakra. So you can see the capital is very far away. That is why the Bhaga is able to torment all the Eka Chakra citizens. So the capital city is very far away. That is also I mentioned. And this is how the Pandavas traveled to Kampilya. So they heard about Draupadi Swayamvara. So they traveled from Eka Chakra to here. They reached a place called Somasravayana, where they met Dhaumya, their priest. This is the Dhaumya that in the Ayodhya, like either Dhaumya or his son is the Ayodhya Dhaumya in the episode of Janamejaya. So this is first time the Pandavas met Dhaumya, their priest. And then they go to Kampilya, attending the Draupadi Swayamvara. And yes, so maybe I will skip this slide. There is a mention of Vipas and Sududri here. This is a part of a certain narrative about Ashmaga. That is part of a conversation between Arjuna and Gandharva, Chitraratha Gandharva. So how the city of Ashmaga is founded. That explanation is given in that location. And then here, if you look at now how these migrations happened, like in the early Rigvedic period, the place Kurukshetra is known as Vara Prithivya. Tritsu king Sudas ruled here. And later on in the middle Rigvedic period, they got very much declined after the descendants of Sahadeva and Somaka, the descendants of Sudas. There was no great king of Tritsu, so they migrated to the south. Then onwards, they known as Panchalas. So in the Ramayana, you see Panchala is located in this particular place, around Delhi region. To the south of Kurukshetra, they were in Kurujangala. And during the Pandava era, they migrated eastwards into their well-known location to the east of Kuru. What happened in that empty space vacated by the Panchalas? That is where Dhritarashtra banished them again. So the second time banishment from Hastinapura to happened little more farther westwards into Khandava Prastha. The city was not built that time; it was called Khandava Prastha. And the interesting part of it is that this was actually an ancestral kingdom of Panchali. Because in the Ramayana era, Panchalas ruled this entire Delhi region. So Dhritarashtra basically is telling, oh, you came with our enemy. Panchala is the enemy of the Kurus. So you married the enemy princess Panchali. So you go to the ancestral kingdom of the Panchalas. That is a Khandava Prastha. It was already abandoned. It was a big forest. That is where they sent. So this is an indirect information that we can extract using geography. That Dhritarashtra was sending them into the older territory of the Panchalas. That is, Panchali is on ancestral territory. That is where they go. So the Delhi region. And there they clear up the Khandava forest. And that is and then establish Indraprastha. That is also because of which they got enmity with Takshaka. And that entire chain of events happened. Killing of Parikshit and then Janamejaya, Sarpasatra. All happened because of that. So all very historical. And then here, what you can see is the connection between the Mathura and Dwaraka. So this is like how the Krishna migrated to Dwaraka, and this is the kind of sea. Now there is like difference from this particular Gujarat area, because this entire Ran of Kutch was a shallow sea, and a great city called Dholavira was there. Then this is I have identified as Dwaraka, because Dwaraka is very close to Saraswati. So wherever Saraswati drains, Chamasodbeda. In the Mahabharata and Harivamsha indicate Dwaraka is closer to Saraswati mouth. So only Dholavira qualifies. And of course, the current Dwarka Puri or Dwarka Bet Dwarka could be an outpost of Krishna, not an actual city. The actual city is Dholavira, and this Bet Dwarka will be a kind of a remote outpost of that kingdom, Dwaraka kingdom. So it is a little more closer. You can see the Kadirbet island here, and Dholavira is here, and that will be considered Dwaravati. And you can see the Raivataka hill on the eastern side of the Kadirbet, and the Madhavi Tirtha onto the north of that. These are all well aligned with the narrative of Krishna to Yudhishthira. And here actually I have identified the length, the Yojana-based length of Dwaraka mentioned by Krishna, very much aligned with the inner city of the Dholavira. That also I mentioned in the book, little more clarity. And here this is how Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima, the trio, went to kill Jarasandha. They were in a secret mission, so they avoided the Hastinapura, etc. There is Hastinapura here. They just avoided that and went to Himalayas, and along the Himalaya through Jambu Marga, they reached Videha. They got some standby army there, because anything happened, the army should attack. And after keeping the standby army here, they went to this Girivaraja and killed Jarasandha. So the Midila is very much supported. Midila support Bhima, because his education happened here. Advanced education in the mace fight from Balarama that happened in Midila. So Bhima have some support here. Bhima and Krishna also have some support here. So they always go to Mithila for some kind of military support and keep a standby army here, and then went to defeat, kill Jarasandha. And this is like this Krishna's description of the Girivaraja. Girivaraja means surrounded by mountains. Girivaraja. So you can see the different mountains now: Varaha, Vaihara, Chaitya, then Rishigiri, Vrishabhagiri, all these surrounding the Girivaraja. And Girivaraja is the oldest capital mentioned in the Mahabharata. And later on, the Rajagriha, another capital, came out outside of the Girivaraja, outside of the mountains. So Rajagriha and Girivaraja is the oldest capital. Rajagriha is the second capital. Padaliputra is the third capital, which was established after the Kurukshetra war. So that is the Magadha history that comes up here. And then this is the Arjuna Digvijaya. So from Indraprastha, he went northwards to attack the Kuninda Desha. And after that, he went to this close to Sakala. Then he went to the Pragjyotisha. So here again, this Pragjyotish period in Assam is not the Pragjyotisha of Bhagadatta. That Pragjyotish is Pragpur. That is a border in between border and Haryana. Sorry, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, there is a place called Pragpur. That is the Pragjyotisha. So how the Assam Pragjyotisha came, because people migrated from here. After Kurukshetra war, some people migrated from this hilly region, aligning with the Himalaya. They reached Assam and they established another city called Pragjyotisha there. But original Pragjyotisha is the Pragpur in the border between Himachal and Punjab. And then he goes to up to Kulu Manali. So this is Kulu and this is Manali. That is mentioned in Mahabharata. So Kuluta and Uttara Kuluta. And this entire region was in the control of Gadotkaja. So Arjuna got some support from Gadotkaja in this region, basically. And then he goes to Trigarta and then Kashmira and so many other kingdoms. So I am not going into details. So the book have elaborate account for each battle, each kingdom defeated. And then he goes like this to Cambodia and Darada, Parama Cambodia, Uttara Rishiga, like that, tracing the Sindhu River. So you can see that river Sindhu is traced here. There is Loha, that is Leh in the Ladakh. And then he goes like this along the Sindhu and he reached the Manasarovar region, the Kailasa and Manasarovar. This is where he mentions, saw some Kimpurishas, Gandharvas, Yakshas. They mentioned this is Uttaraguru region, we cannot have war here. They give some forces and send him back. Similarly, this is the battle of Bhimasena. So from Indraprastha, he went eastwards. Arjuna went northwards, Bhima went eastwards. Again, he goes to the Videha. See, this is where his reserve army is there. So he always goes there. And from there, then there are various other places, the Dasharna and then Pulinda, and then here, see Ayodhya. So by the time of Bhima, Ayodhya was re-established, and a king named Dirgha Prajna attacked Bhima when he was in Ayodhya. So Bhima defeated Dirgha Prajna because Ayodhya already rebuilt by the Dirgha Prajna. We don't know whether he is related to Rama, but Dirgha Prajna was ruling Ayodhya during the time period of Bhima. And of course, another king called Brihadbala, that is a descendant of Kusha. And he turns out to be grandson of Kusha. And Pandu, Bhima defeated the Brihadbala also. So two kings, two Kosala kings, the kingdom of Brihadbala. Brihadbala and Dirgha Prajna in Ayodhya. Both of them Kosala king. Brihadbala somewhere in southern Kosala and Ayodhya ruled by Dirgha Prajna. Both of them were defeated by Bhima. And he defeated Gopala, Kaksha, Kashi, where he got a wife. Kashi Raja gave a daughter to Bhima. All this happened, and then Gaya, everything. And then he goes to Nepal. There is a Indra Parvata that is there in the Nepal Kirada region, Videha, then this Kushiga region, Magadha, all this place, Pashubhumi, that is in the Jharkhand, Mahidara and Malada, all these places. And last he attacked Anga also, right? After getting a lot of forces, he got a lot of strength to defeat Karna. So that is also happening here. Then Vangadesha, and finally reach Lauhitya. That is the end point of Bhima. That is the Brahmaputra river. So now Bhima reached here, and then he got a lot of kingdoms: Mlecha, Sagara Dvipa, Tamralipta, Kacha, Sukma, Dakshina Sukma. All this kingdom he defeated. And this is what Arjuna's pilgrimage. So I have actually understand the sequence. There is a difference in sequence. The correct sequence is like between the Arjuna's and Bhima's Digvijaya. That Arjuna's travel up. So Arjuna went for northern Digvijaya, returned back, and then the Bhima was returning back from the eastern Digvijaya. That is the time when Arjuna left. Like okay, the just before the that in that period, Arjuna went for the pilgrimage. So that reasons I have mentioned in my book. So the Arjuna pilgrimage, first he started from the Kandava, that is the Kandava Prastha, the Indraprastha. Basically, he went to the Gangadhara, that is Haridwar, where he met Ulupi, and then he went ascended the mountain up to Bragatunga after crossing Agastya Parvata and Vasishta Parvata, everything, everything. And then Arjuna returns, and then he travels to Anga, Vanga, Kalinga. So the actual Manipura again is a Kalinga city. Again, in the after Kurukshetra or post Pandava period, some people migrated from Manipura to the northeastern state. That is why Manipur state came. But that name was during the Pandava period. That there was Manipura was a city, port city like Dwaraka, which was trading with a lot of foreign kingdoms, foreign countries. That was a Kalinga port city, and that is where Chitrangada, that Arjuna's second, the wife Chitrangada is called. And then he traveled up to this Agastya Tirtha. Again, the Dakshina Samudra here actually referring to if you look at the Orissa of seashore, the sea is to the south. That is what is mentioned in Dakshina Samudra. So people confuse it with Kanyakumari and all, but it is the Dakshina Samudra because the seashore is in the north and sea is in the south, in the Orissa region. And then after Kalinga, he passed through the Narmada, or either Godavari or Narmada. He reached the Gokarna. So Gokarna again, there is some kind of confusion with the current Gokarna in Karnataka, but there were so many Gokarnas. That is, Gokarna is nothing but peninsular region, which shape in the shape of the ear of a cow. So cow ear shaped peninsular regions are called Gokarna. It simply means peninsular region. So that many peninsular regions are there on Godavari mouth and Narmada mouth. So one of the Gokarna he went. From there he go to Dwaraka, and in Dwaraka he marries or he abduct the Subhadra, and then he travels like this from Dwaraka to Pushkara, and Pushkara and then Indraprastha, like that. So yeah, the real business by the time
Jijith, like,
Arjuna,
just want
yeah,
to interject like yeah, we are over time, so we need to
okay.
leave some time for questions as well. So yeah, if you have any like closing comments, please go ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the summary is that I mean you might have got a gist of the geography that is being detailed in the book. So I am actually trying to summarize in 5 minutes, just glimpsing through the different maps. So you can see by the book, and you can see all the maps and all the descriptions are there, like establishment of Indraprastha city and Mayasabha, and the Yojana distances all matching together. All these things I have mentioned. Then Maya traveling to Bindusaras and getting some materials. And then the Sahadeva's Digvijaya in the Nagula's Digvijaya in the western side is there. So he crossing the this the passes, these passes in the Pakistan. That all these things he goes go to Afghanistan. All these things are mentioned. Then he reaches the Dwaraka. Then Sahadeva's Digvijaya, to the southwards. And maybe very importantly, he reaches the Bhrigukaksha and send messengers to Lanka, which is aligning with the Lanka location mentioned in the Ramayana. And even Dandakaranya location in Ramayana is validated by Sahadeva Digvijaya and reaches the city Potana here, that is a new city in the Pandava era. So, and then other locations, Kerala, Pandichola, everything in the Sahadeva Digvijaya mentioning. And this is how the Pandavas went to forest after the Bhuta. That is mentioned. And the Salva attack on the Dwaraka is mentioned. And then the Pandavas the Arjuna's travel to Uttaraguru region, like to get education from Indra. All these things are discussed. So I will move very fast. So it's too numerous. So in 5 minutes, I already just only glimpse it, but you can look it in a very detailed manner. So this is the travel, the migration, the pilgrimage travel of Yudhishthira. Everything is mentioned. Like this again, they return back to Prabhasa, meet Krishna. All these things are discussed here. How they went to how their pilgrimage continued, and they reached very close to Arjuna in Tibet. So all these things, and here that Bhima meeting Hanuman in that Indradumna lake, all these things are mentioned, and return back of Arjuna. Then the path, the Devaloka region where the different paths are there. So everything is there. Maybe 5 minutes I'll conclude. So yeah, it's full of maps and also the chronology also mentioned. And this is a Ramayana narrative again mentioned in the Mahabharata. That is clear. And so many such maps, like this is the kingdom configuration during the Pandava battle period. All these things very detailed mentioned. This is the Trigarta attack on the Matsya. So it's a very comprehensive, pretty comprehensive kind of analysis. And yeah, this is the Krishna's peace mission to Hastinapura. And Sanjaya's maps, the polar azimuthal map of Sanjaya, where the continent shapes are mentioned, rabbit shapes and people tree shape. And the place, the regions beyond the north of Himalaya up to Siberia is mentioned by Sanjaya. And Meru is the Pamir knot, that is clear. And Aratha region, all these things. Then finally, what is any of importance is Vishakayupa. Yeah, this is the Dhritarashtra's travel after the war into sannyasa, all these things. And these are the kind of places related to Ashwamedha that is shown here. And the final journey of the Pandavas, fortunately, I was able to conclude with the final journey of the Pandavas. Yeah, so we are this is the best place to stop. So this is overall the geography of Mahabharata book. Starting from the birth to death of the Pandavas, the entire geography, very travel, everything is analyzed. Sub-narratives of Savitri, all the geography maps, I have glimpsed it. Nala Damayanti's travel narratives. Rama's travel narratives, because 18th chapter Ramayana is there inside Mahabharata. Nala Damayanti's, then Satyavati Savitri's narrative. Then descendants of Arjuna, that is Janamejaya's travel, Pandu's travel, everything. So I'll look forward for the questions. Maybe I'll close this so that I can.
Yeah, so actually, I had a question. This is actually about your previous book about geography of Ramayana, and someone asked me. I think there is a viewpoint that Sri Rama never crossed. I think Narmada,
Narmada.
right? And I think, what are your views on that? And I know in your book you have discussed this, but for the record, I would like you to talk
Yeah.
about.
So see, for example, I in my books I am actually looking at exaggerations both in the geography and the chronology. So a chronology exaggeration I already mentioned, like there is only 100-year gap between the birth of Rama and Yudhishthira. But geography exaggeration, what happened is that after the lifetime of Rama, the subsequent poets, they have exaggerated. So if you look at the Rama's travel from Ayodhya, crossing Gomati and Syandiga rivers, and then Bharadwaja Asma, up to Chitrakuda, there are no exaggeration, exactly the same. After Chitrakuda, he went to Agastya Asrama, then Panchavadi, then Kishkinda. Actually, the realistic geographical locations are all in Madhya Pradesh. But later redactors, they have slowly migrated these places to the southward. So they have a good intention. The good intention was to integrate the southern Indian population because they will be finding it very much attractive that okay, Kishkinda is in Hampi in Karnataka, or Panchavadi is in Maharashtra, Nasik. But of course, there is a claim from Panchavadi in the Telangana also, but close to Bhadrajalam, there is a place Parnashala. And in Andhra Pradesh, there is a competitive claim for Kishkinda that is very close to Tirumala Hills. So the tradition, there are two traditions basically, but maybe people don't know. Two traditions about Panchavati, two traditions about Kishkinda, 2 and 3 traditions about Lanka also there. Because within Valmiki Ramayana, there is a later tradition, we can see the pattern, which I try to identify Lanka close to Kanyakumari. So that is further direct to the south. And there is another tradition try to associate with Lanka. And there is, you can also see the conflict between the traditions. The later tradition inside the Ramayana. But so there are two variant divergent traditions about the subsequent southern locations of Rama, both in the east coast and west coast. But the original locations are all to the north of Narmada. And the realistic Lanka that is acceptable based on all the kind of descriptions mentioned in the Ramayana, that it is a very rich city with huge wealth. That is actually identified with the port city, like Dwaraka is another, Dholavira is a kind of port city, which is very wealthy cities. So that is in the banks of Narmada, the mouth of Narmada, Bhagatrava, the port city, Harappan port city on the mouth of Narmada. Not only the Ravana's ancestors, like his grandfathers, all married daughters of Narmada, which is a political statement that they have established themselves on Narmada. Ravana's biggest enemy, Kartavir Arjuna, was on Narmada in Mahishmati. And so many parameters aligned together for Narmada, Ravana's Narmada civilization king. And it is a Harappan civilization continuity into Narmada.
Yeah, thanks for that. Manmohanji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so my question is why it is known as Mahabharata, but because at least I didn't find South India being mentioned at all in Mahabharata. So why it is called Mahabharata?
Yes. See, compared to the Rig Veda is a text which has not now evolution, but Ramayana and Mahabharata are itihasas which continuously evolved. So in a subsequent period, when the southern regions are known to the northern Indo-Gangetic people, their places are integrated. So even in the later part of the Mahabharata and Ramayana, that is later, there are certain sargas and inside the Valmiki Ramayana which are later, much later in the nature, because it's all part of the Valmiki Ramayana and Mahabharata as well. In that you see mention about Chola Pandya, Kerala, and also mention about cities like Patana, that is Marichi Patana, that is mentioned in the Ramayana. It is with a slight pronunciation Murachi Patana mentioned in the Mahabharata. It's all the port city Patana in the Kerala. And Korke, that is the Tamil Nadu port city, it is mentioned as the Pandya. Okay, so the final version of Mahabharata is actually encompassing the entire Bharatavarsha, and it rightfully it has a geographical terminological connotation that Mahabharata is connected with the Bharatavarsha. But if you look at the original meaning of Mahabharata is simply that it is a text about the Bharata kings. So pertaining to Bharata is called Bharata, and Mahabharata, that Maha word is added to Mahabharata when the total number of slokas in Mahabharata exceeded the total number of the verses in Rig Veda, Yajurveda, all the 4 Vedas together. Mahabharata become larger than that. That is when the Maha word is added. So Bharata, actually the pure meaning is not geographical. It is just pertaining to the Vamsha of Bharata. And it became Mahabharata because of its growth bigger than all the 4 Vedas. But later on, the geographical connotation came because the entire Mahabharata Varsha is encompassed by the entire totality of Mahabharata, including older contemporary geography in the Pandava period and the later geography added to it. That is how it has emerged.
Anyone has any more questions? Please go ahead. Yeah, I think if no one has any questions, since we are well over time, I think
Okay.
thanks for the talk. I think your previous talk was also well received, and it's very rich and a lot of content. And similarly, this presentation is also like very rich and lots of content to go over. And the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. And having said that, yeah, thanks a lot for appearing on Indic Forum.
Yeah.
Do you have any next book plan?
Yeah, actually, I am the core post Kurukshetra events. So mostly it is discussed in the Puranas. So there is one little gap I need to complete, that is from Kurukshetra war to up to Chandragupta Maurya and Guptas. Of course, this is mainstream history, but connecting it with the Kurukshetra war, that is my responsibility. So I am actually writing a book on the Puranas, and then a big gap, that is I have focused on the geography and chronology, but I am well aware of the philosophy, the dharma discourse in the Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Rig Veda. So I have one more book called Dharmic Grand Narrative, which takes all the dharmic discourse in the Mahabharata, Ramayana, and in the Vedas and Upanishads, and then create a comprehensive text for the 21st century Sanatana Dharma. So it will mix the future also, like how do you expand benefit Sanatana Dharma even using technologies, which is also part of that book.
Mhm. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.